And welcome back to Janky AF. Now, I want to tell you about a new series that I'm going to be starting, and it has its roots many years in the past. And basically what I'm going to be trying to do is archive Ford Aerostars for sale in local classifieds. Now, way back when on Instagram, I had a series called Aerostars of Craigslist. It was quite popular, if I do say so myself. A lot of positive feedback, and when it went away, some people were a little melancholy about that and went out of their way to tell me so. So I've always enjoyed capturing Ford Aerostars for sale. There's a lot of funny elements, not only to the cars themselves and the janky condition that they are in, because they often are in very janky condition. These are not cars that were cared for, and they were used as workhorses. But also the posts are very funny. I think Craigslist and now Facebook Marketplace posting culture is very funny, where you'll see someone almost go out of their way, or so it would seem, to write things that are grammatically very inventive or creative or efficient, shall we say. And you get a whole sense of sort of what car you may want to buy or not want to buy, depending on what you feel like your experience with that dealer or seller will be, based on how they've presented themselves in their posting. So the Aerostar itself, I've always been obsessed with the Ford Aerostar. You'll see in my bull market list, the Ford Aerostar is the greatest car of all time. I call it the greatest vehicle of all time. Obviously that sounds like hyperbole, but in my little world it is the greatest vehicle of all time. It's my favorite vehicle. We all have niches, we all have things that we gravitate towards, and in the center of my vehicular universe is the Ford Aerostar. I've been obsessed with them as long as I can remember. I now have the pleasure and the honor of owning a Ford Aerostar, a 1986 Ford Aerostar, which you can also watch some more content on here on Janky AF. We've done a brief introduction, and being that we live in the Northeast, and I don't like to drive any of my classic cars in salt or slush or snow. It gets garaged for the winter. It will be coming out soon. I'm so excited to bring you all that Ford Aerostar content. But for now, I wanted to go and do an ongoing series. And in my Instagram posts, I was sort of hoping that I could get 365 of these, one for each day, and I could make some sort of coffee table book, or just have like a little calendar, an Aerostar for every day of the year. So I'm hoping to do it at minimum 365 of these. I don't think I'll be able to post one every single day, but hopefully over time I will accumulate enough of them, and they will be stored in a separate Aerostar playlist. I'm probably going to make multiple Aerostar playlists, one just to keep these posts separate from my other Aerostar content. And this will be sort of a working historiography of the Aerostar, and then sort of also a little commentary on sort of the classifieds. Now, back when it was Craigslist predominantly, I loved Craigslist. I still say Craigslist is one of the best manifestations of capitalism ever. It's so direct, it's peer-to-peer, it seems not to gouge or inflate people on prices. Market values get determined in a pretty fair way. Now everything has shifted over to Facebook Marketplace. I'm not a huge fan of Facebook. I just don't use it as much. But I have found myself using it more and more now that Craigslist, especially in my area, has become sort of like a barren landscape in terms of cars, which saddens me, but that is the reality of the situation, and things seem to conglomerate into these smaller and smaller variety of options that we have to buy a car from. Yada, yada, yada. That's a rant. So anyways, it will no longer be called Aerostars of Craigslist. I have to come up with a name for it. You'll see it in the title of this post, obviously, after I come up with a name for it. But it's going to be something of the history of the Aerostar for sale. Maybe, you know, an Aerostar a day or something like that. Anyways, that is to say, I wanted to sort of introduce this series. I'm very excited about it, and I wanted to tell you sort of what it's going to be. It's going to be this little commentary on Aerostars that are for sale. They're still for sale all over the place. Now, I've heard a lot where sort of demolished in cash for clunkers, but they did make over 2 million Ford Aerostars. I've recently discovered that Mexico City is like a hotbed for Aerostars, and Mexico in general, a lot of them filtered their way down there. So that's really cool. I'll sort of go all over the place geographically, and that's a fun little game for me too, to sort of, you know, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego in her Ford Aerostar. There are some in other countries too, I believe, but we'll sort of jump around and then maybe do certain little geographical pockets as I sort of explore the landscape. So, very excited to present this series, very excited to delve into all the janky Aerostars that are still floating around out there and providing transportation and hauling capacity to their custodians and caretakers. With that, please stay tuned for more wonderful Aerostar content, and until next time, Janky do Thanky. Okay, a brief addendum. I have named the series. It will be called The Year of the Aerostar. Now, I like the year of because it connotes, like, you know, in a lot of Asian cultures, they have the year of certain animals. I think it's like sort of a cool, you know, version of, what do you call it when you look at the stars and the signs, to astrology, I suppose. The Year of the Aerostar, also because it's going to be at minimum 365 different videos. So you'll document, you'll have an Aerostar for every single day of the year. Maybe we'll even do a leap day Aerostar. And then thirdly, 2022, I am proclaiming as the year of the Aerostar. I think the Aerostar is really going to come into its own this year. For me personally, I'm going to be making a lot of Aerostar content here on Janky AF. My buddy Evan, who also has a 1986 Aerostar, which I actually bought and then sold to him. So we call our little squad or gang the 86ers. And I'm going to hopefully have a lot of content on his Aerostar as well. If there's anybody out there with an Aerostar who would like to travel to upstate New York, or if you're not too far away, maybe I can travel to you to review your Aerostar. I would love to review your Ford Aerostar. All things Aerostars here on Janky AF. And who knows, maybe if we're lucky, we'll even find our way into another Aerostar. We're going to be looking at tons of classified ads to find one, so maybe we'll find one. Who knows? But that being said, this will be the year of the Aerostar. Last year we had the first Aerostar sold on Cars and Bids. I'm hoping we'll see more sold on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer, and they will start to really achieve their status as a true modern classic, because they certainly are, and they certainly have the ubiquity. I know rarity is a thing in classics, but they made so many of them, which I think is actually a good thing for a classic car. I think it's cool to have a lot of them because the price stays relatively low and there's customization options. You're not worried about bastardizing a rare example of something, and they're very easy to get into. The floor for classic car ownership, I believe, should be as low as possible, because I believe everybody should be able to participate in it. And you can get an Aerostar, we'll see, for sometimes, you know, under $1,000. So I think it's a real democratic, everyman's classic car, not to mention that it had so much functionality as a vehicle. So even if it's just your classic car you're puttering around in, you can still go to Home Depot and get lumber. You can still go to the grocery store, get a ton of groceries. You can haul around a lot of people. You can go camping in them. So for that reason, I think it's a usable classic car. So that's the second part of this video. It is the year of the Aerostar. Please stay tuned as we document all things Aerostars here on Janky AF. Again, Janky do Thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.